Can we live without trains, ships, and planes? This is Ronald Stein. Ronald Stein is an author, columnist, engineer, advisor for Heartland Institute. And he's co-author of books. One of the books is Energy Made Easy, and another one is Clean Energy Exploitations. Good afternoon, Ronald Stein. It's a pleasure having you today in our podcast.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Excellent. Ronald, I have three parts to discuss with you. Of course, you can bring everything you want to do with us, but the first is related to petrochemical issues. And I have some. Oh, sorry. This is the article that you published originally and that are making us to talk today. But the first point is the following: petrochemicals grow more than any other oil demand driver. Is the first headlines. Very important. So petrochemicals growing very fast. The second, petrochemicals are set to account for more than a third of the growth in the world oil demand to 2030, and nearly half the growth of 2050, adding near 7 million barrels a day in terms of petrochemical dependence. The other parts are to get wind power, you need oil, and of course, you need petrochemicals too. And the last headlines for this first discussion, petrochemical feedstock accounts for 12% of global oil demand, a share that's expected to increase driven by increasing demand for plastics, fertilizers, and other products, etc. So, Ronald Stein, petrochemicals demand, how do you see that?
Can we live without planes and trains and automobiles? In a way, the answer is yes. We did it in the 1800s. so, but life was short. It was rough, and people very seldom live beyond 40 years of age. Since we have discovered oil, like I say, in less than 200 years, the world is populated from 1 to 8 billion people, and we now have a very materialistic society. If you take a look in your house, your workplace, the hospital, the airport, trying to identify something that was not made with fossil fuels. We're a very materialistic society based on products. And the products is the differentiation between oil and wind and solar, i.e. renewables. Because as we talked about before, renewables only generate electricity. They make no products. Wind turbines cannot make tires. Wind turbines cannot make defibrillators. And solar panels, like I say, they make nothing. So it's a very materialistic society. And the challenge we have today is we got 8 billion people on the planet who are trying to keep alive and well and healthy. And a good majority of those people are living on, less than $10 a day. So they want to join the industrial revolution that we are participating in, that they're not in. So demand is going to keep increasing as they keep improving the quality of their lives.
Yeah. But Ronald, the point that paid my attention is that petrochemicals demand in terms of the total oil demand is increasing proportionally. This is something that is curious, no?
Well, that's true because when you take a look at the 8 billion people on the planet, it's only the wealthy countries that have all these products, all these goodies, and be able to have iPhones and have communication, around the world. The 80% of the world, which is more than 6 billion people, don't have what we have. As they join the Industrial Revolution,
Guys,
their demands, they're going to want an iPhone, they're going to want a refrigerator, and they're going to want to be able to fly and have tires on their cars and even have cars.
so probably the reason that petrochemicals demand is increasing proportionally to the total oil demand is these people that joining the revolution, joining the society that we are living with.
Exactly. To meet the product supply chain demands, the demands are increasing for more and more products by more and more people. And yeah, that's going to put more
That's
demand
it.
on the oil. So,
Let me show a joke. Suppose a joke. Ricardo Pereira, thank you for coming. Can we live without Greta and DiCaprio?
yes.
Yeah, the direct answer is yes, we can live without them.
Well,
They're
my
great.
question to both of them is they want to get rid of the demon oil, but my question to them is what's the backup plan? If there's no backup plan, you're not going to be able to make tires. You won't be able to make EVs. You won't be able to make wind turbines or solar panels. And
You
so
you
we
mean
have,
replacement? You mean replacement or
well,
substitute?
Armando, remember, electricity came after oil because all the parts of all power plants, call it coal, natural gas, nuclear, hydro, whatever it is, all the parts and components are made from the oil derivatives we get out of crude oil.
Yeah.
And everything that needs electricity, the iPhones, the refrigerators, the washing machines, everything that needs electricity is made with the oil derivatives from oil. So if you get rid of oil, you get rid of the light bulb, you know, from Thomas Edison, and everything goes away. And we go back to the living in the 1800s. They,
Yeah.
they had a
But
they had a zero emission society back then in the 1800s.
but do we both agree that if we have a replacement, a substitute for these features for petrochemicals, we can replace oil?
Well, we've had 200 years to find a replacement and been unable to do that. Today, I think the confusion is people talk about we're going to replace wind and solar energy is going to replace fossil fuel energy, but
Mhm.
they do different things because wind and solar is not a replacement for oil because wind and solar can make nothing. All it can do is generate electricity. And if the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining, they're not even doing that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Let me go to this the second part. That's a complement of this first one. Is related to let me this not big size to read easily. It it will be impossible to replace fossil fuels with renewables by 2050 unless we cut our energy consumption. This is
Well,
the
let
first.
me correct that statement. Unless we
Sure.
cut our product consumption. If we didn't
Yeah,
need the
not
products,
only.
if we didn't need the products, we wouldn't need the oil.
Yeah. This phrase is not complete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut our energy and products consumption. Yeah, that's right.
And if more people
That's
have
true.
iPhones and more people have refrigerators and more people have,
Yeah,
you know, everything that needs electricity, then it's
yeah.
going to be oil because wind turbines can't make a washing machine and solar panels can't make a defibrillator.
The other one is renewable energy can't replace fossil fuels. A very clear statement.
Exactly, because they do different things. Comparing apples and oranges. Because, like I say, when people have a conversation, they have to talk about products and electricity. Don't mix them because electricity, which you get out of, a nuclear power plant can't make a tire. A hydropower plant, can't make a refrigerator. I mean, all electricity generation. It's not just wind and solar, but it's wind, solar, hydro, nuclear, coal, natural gas. All the electricity is just generating electricity for the things that need electricity. And
Yeah,
unless you have oil to make the iPads and iPhones and televisions, and there's nothing to electrify.
uh-huh. Mhm. And another one, the last one from this part is from Shell. Huh? So Shell is a very strong company and
Oh
reliable
yeah,
company. Even in 2070, when Sky achieves the societal goal of net zero emissions, oil, coal, and gas are still in use. 2070.
exactly. Because you take the poor countries, as I mentioned, like 80% of the population, which is more than 6 billion people, they're living on less than $10 a day. Armando, they can't subsidize themselves out of a paper bag. And if they want electricity, coal is fantastic. It's abundant in most countries. It's inexpensive. It's reliable. Because if you want electricity, you want continuous electricity, continuous uninterruptible electricity. And that's the one thing that wind and solar do not do. They do not provide continuous, unreliable, continuous uninterruptible electricity. They're basically a redundant electricity generating system. When they're working, they need a backup. And the backup is a continuous electrical supply, which is coal, natural gas, nuclear, and hydro.
But no constraints related to CO2 emission and the climate impact.
When you take a look at CO2, it basically lets things grow. Greenhouses inflate CO2 to like 1,300 parts per, CO2 right now is around 420 parts per million. And greenhouses inflate it to like 1,300 to grow plants faster. People on a nuclear submarine, they have like 2,000 parts per million. People on the space shuttle, their CO2 up there is like 2,000 parts per million. So it's basically a gas of life. If CO2, they want to reduce CO2, you get CO2 down, it's 420 parts per million. You get it down to 150, all plants die. And when all plants die, all humanity dies.
Sure.
So we're actually, as I see it, we're at the point of CO2 starvation.
Yeah, I understand. Let me go to a new discussion, please. No, it's not this one. It's another one. It's this one. Toyota's CEO said that no more than 3 in 10 vehicles that will be in the market next decade. So the limit is 3 EVs in 10 vehicles. How do you see this statement from Toyota's CEO?
Very true. You take a look at
impact.
Well, you take a look at the profile of the EV owner. The profile of today's EV owner is highly educated, usually 1 or 2 degrees, high income, low mileage requirements, multi-car families, and homeowners. Because in the people that own EVs, most of them have a house and a garage to park the car in. It's a second vehicle. It's not their workhorse vehicle.
Yeah,
The
that's
EVs, the EVs have bought them. I mean, the elites have bought them. The elites will continue to buy them. But Armando, we're running out of the elites because the common folk are not as highly educated, not high income, not multi-car families, don't live in a house, have high mileage requirements. They need a workhorse. And it's going to be very challenging. I've written articles that the auto industry has been mandated into a death spiral. Besides the economics of, where are the buyers, there's probably not enough lithium in the world to make all those batteries. And then you get, another point, the book I wrote, Clean Energy Exploitations, brings up another issue. Is it ethical and moral to buy an EV? Because the EV battery is composed of a lot of lithium and cobalt, and those exotic minerals and metals are coming from poor developing countries that have no environmental controls, no labor controls, and we're exploiting people that have yellow, brown, and black skin, and the environmental degradation is atrocious. I mean, I personally won't buy an EV, and I'm highly educated, high income, multi-car family, but to me, it's an ethical and moral situation because I know where the lithium and cobalt is coming from. I'm not willing to financially support that. You know, it's like the Blood Diamond movie that DiCaprio was in. These are blood minerals. Now, the shocking thing is our government is willing to support that situation. They're providing incentives to buy your EVs and tax breaks. They're providing financial incentives for China and Africa. Continue exploiting people, continue the environmental degradation in your land. That's okay because we want EVs over here. I think it's unethical and immoral of the government to do that. And even Biden is said in public that batteries are tainted with, child labor. Well, duh. And he's providing you a financial incentive to buy them. Conflict of interest.
Tell me, I'm not sure that you have these numbers, but in California, people have more than, so there are more than 3 EVs in each 10 vehicles.
Well, of all the EVs in the United States, California has, I think, about 40% of them. We have a very temperate climate. The next most popular state is Florida. Between California and Florida, we have 6 times as many EVs as Florida. We're a bigger state, I'll say too. But you take a look at the rest of the country, take a look at the Arctic conditions that hit the United States. Nobody wants an EV because, if it's frigid outside, your EV is not going to go as far. And if it's cold, you want your heater running. Well, duh, Armando, the heater runs off the battery, which takes away your mileage. And if you're in the summer in hot climate areas, like Phoenix, you want your air conditioning running. Well, the air conditioner runs off the battery, which affects your range. And so, no, it's, I think the elites have bought them and the elites will continue to buy them, but we're getting down to the common folk and I just don't see them buying it. We're seeing EVs building up on dealer lots now. And, they're talking about, well, they're going to dig for lithium in the United States. That's all fine and dandy because then it would be ethical for the lithium. But the problem is, if you dig for lithium in the United States, you're going to have to A, adhere to the labor laws, B, adhere to the environmental laws, which is going to drive up the cost of lithium. And Armando, you can't afford to drive up the cost of lithium because EV batteries are out of range now.
But Ronald, people are still excited to buy an EV, and I mean, press media are doing the wrong job and forcing people to understand that the EVs is the solution. And so, how do you see this participation of press and media?
Well, the media is not participating in the conversations that we've talked about because, the EVs, the EV by itself, it's 100% made with oil. All the parts, the components, the electronics, it's all made. The tires are made from oil. The roads, the asphalt that they're riding on is, so, and the other thing I know in California, we mandated by 2035, you can't buy an internal combustion engine car. Well, take a look at it from the other side, from an engineer side. California's mandated, they want heavier vehicles tearing up our roads because the Tesla has a 1,000-pound battery. They want trucks to go EVs. Well, truck batteries like 16,000 pounds. So you had all these cars and trucks are heavier, tearing up the roads, and right now they're paying nothing to maintain the roads. Right now, the fuel taxes from all the gasoline and diesel here in California, it raises like $8.8 billion to maintain 400,000 miles of roadway. Well, that 8.8 is going to start decreasing as you have more and more EVs, and the maintenance cost is going to be going up and up and up. So it's going to be huge. And so that's a challenge that, they mandated EVs, but they did not mandate how the hell you're going to pay for it, for the road maintenance.
Yeah, you do not expect that one day we can have electric planes, electric trains, so you do not believe on that? Never.
Armando, you've been on an airplane. when you take a step back and take a look at the size of those things, my first impression as an engineer, you're going to get this off the ground, and
With a
you're going to
battery.
fly, and you're going to fly 14 hours from California to Australia.
Yeah, and ships is the same for ships.
Same thing. Take a look. These ships, they keep getting bigger and bigger. You take an exotic, cruise ship. You take a step back. It's a hotel on water,
Yeah.
and you want this thing to move.
So are they going more to the nuclear power than to the electric power? You mean ships
Well,
and
nuclear.
trains?
Right now, nuclear is pretty much limited to the military for ships. You have the nuclear, carriers, and because, like I say, they don't need any, fossil fuels. They can be out there for months and just go on and on. But it's, yeah, I'm not sure you're going to see a nuclear powered vehicle in the very near distant future. It's something that I don't think they want the average citizen to have access to that kind of technology.
But
It's very effective, but you have to have the technology to run it and operate it and maintain it.
you mean more related to a technology limitation than other things,
Yes, yes.
or risks and dangers? No, there's not.
Well, it's a combination of both. If you
Okay.
can't maintain it, then you do have a lot of risk.
So nuclear is limited to military and ships area only.
For transportation, yes. But it's, people want zero emission electricity. For Armando, that's where nuclear is.
Yes.
And it's interesting that the United States is closing most of its nuclear power plants. It's totally against nuclear. We think wind and solar is going to be our electrical source. But if the wind's not blowing, sun's not shining, hospitals may not be working. But I think the world has picked up on the fact that, nuclear is a phenomenal source for continuous, uninterruptible electricity. And a lot of countries are moving in that direction.
Ronald, I understand that in California, specifically in California, governor and staff and politicians, they are thinking to the electrification side and the population. When you see people, normal people, how or they do not know about these issues.
Well, most politicians, you're right, they're looking at electrification. But as we talked before, when you're talking, you either got to talk electricity or products.
Yeah.
And, wind and solar can't do what oil does, and oil can't do what wind and solar does.
But they do not know about that.
I think that's true. That's why when I give a presentation, I like to give a fireside chat because, hey, I'm all for, wind and solar, but if you want to get rid of oil, do you really want to, stop making tires and stop making medicines and close the hospitals and close the airports? I mean, all the communication equipment is all made with oil. So until you have a replacement, you don't want to get rid of it. I mean, that's your bread and butter. And right now, the challenge is because we populated 8 billion people, the challenge is how are we going to maintain the health and welfare of those 8 billion people? Right now, we grow food in one country, and we can move it to the other country with ships and planes,
and the common people, workers and these people, do they know about these limitations or exactly the same as the politicians?
I think they follow the leaders. And if the leader says we're jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, we're jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. And there's no conversations. Why do you want to do that?
Let me put a video to see your vision about this. 1 second only. Trying to find here.
Molecules for plastics, molecules for fertilizers, ammonia for fertilizers. The world needs both. We're not going to electrify everything.
how do you see this statements?
He's 100% correct. Because, fertilizers and pesticides cannot be made by wind turbines. And it's the availability of fertilizers that have allowed us to grow phenomenal crops and pesticides to control the insects. But, getting back to the electrification of society, wind turbines can't make any pesticides. Solar panels can't make fertilizers. So how are they going to help, agriculture?
It's the base. It's the base of our conversation about petrochemicals. So the participation of petrochemicals in the oil demand and the growing petrochemicals demand.
Exactly, right. And like I say, we've got, the wealthy countries are the ones that are, quote, going green. The wealthy countries can subsidize wind turbines and subsidize solar panels. Armando, if it wasn't for the subsidies, no one would build a wind turbine. No one would build a solar panel farm, because they don't work most of the time. As a business investment, it doesn't work. It's a bad business investment. And so, you have the situation where government's providing subsidies to electrify the world, and people are doing that. All these wind farms and solar farms going up. But if it was up to, private investment dollars, they'll invest it in Wall Street, but they won't invest it in wind turbines. Another problem that
And the
came up
prices.
in the LA Times, there was an article about the chargers in the street, because these companies are providing incentives to, build chargers, and they've done that, but there's no responsibility for maintaining them. So like 20%, 30% of the chargers aren't even working. There's no accountability. They incentivized them to build them, but
Not to maintain them.
there's no incentive to maintain them.
All of this money is subsidies.
It's our
free
tax
money.
dollars. Yeah, free money. It's our tax dollars. You and I
Oh
are
my
paying for
God.
this.
Yeah.
And again, it's the wealthy countries, because the wealthy countries, have the big budgets where they can subsidize it. The 6 billion living on less than $10 a day, you're not going to see a wind farm in their area. There's no reason to put a wind farm anyhow, because they got nothing to electrify. They don't have any iPhones and refrigerators and
No.
air conditioners.
Yeah, and as you said before, these people will join the society, the materialistic society. You
Exactly.
say, and this will be a very shocking process.
Yes. I would just like to have everybody get a little bit more energy literate, just to talk about it, raise the question, because there is a difference between electricity and products. And we have a very product supply chain, huge product supply chain,
Yeah,
that's needed to keep 8 billion people alive and well, and to allow them to vacation, wherever they want to vacation. But electricity is not doing any of that. And all the focus is on electricity and subsidies for electricity and subsidies for EVs. But again, it's just electricity, and it has its limitations. When you have inclement weather, cold and heat, it's not going to happen. I saw a picture of a guy up in Alaska. It was minus 40 degrees, and he's trying to charge his EV. If it takes a half hour to charge his EV, he'll die of frostbite before he's charged.
But you mentioned an expression that's very important for me, is supply chain. So in the past, we had supply chain based on oil, mainly United States importing oil from different places in the world.
Right.
But now United States is increasing the production, internal production, to 13 million barrels a day from a consumption of 20. And starting another supply chain for lithium, cobalt, and these minerals. So supply chain is being moved a lot. No, Ronald?
Supply chain, right. The supply chain for the green movement, a lot of the lithium and cobalt, is being delegated to others. China controls most of the lithium and cobalt production in the world. And when you basically delegate it to others, they have inexpensive labor, no environmental controls, no labor controls. And like I say, we're just exploiting people. That's why I wrote that book, Clean Energy Exploitations, because
Oh,
that's the side. Before you buy your EV, you might want to read that book and make your decision afterwards.
is this one? Let me see here. Is the Clean Energy Exploitation? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
This the second book.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it was nominated for Pulitzer Prize. Like you say, the message is there, and there right now there's no alternative. And I'm just amazed that people want to go to just electricity. I try and not use the word energy in most of my conversations. I either talk about electricity or products. If you want wind and solar, fine. Okay, well, how are you going to maintain the product supply chain? I mean, if everybody has an iPhone, then you need electricity to charge it. But they're not going to get an iPhone made from a wind farm. They're not going to get an iPhone made from a solar panel. You get the iPhone made from basically, oil derivatives. And, everybody that has an iPhone is a happy camper and likes to charge it. But there's 6 billion people that probably don't have an iPhone.
Don't have.
They would like an iPhone. They would like, clean water and sanitation systems. And it's, like I say, we're dealing in the wealthy countries and the very, very poor countries. And the differentiation is separating, is growing bigger and bigger.
And to go to the conclusions, I have a very short video, 10 seconds, and
Okay.
I would like to see your vision about them. So 1 second, I need to load here. Yeah.
Can live together, but if we remove doubt from science, it becomes religion. For plastics, molecules.
Sorry. What do you see in this statement?
Again, 100% true. Because take the politicians, take the policymakers. It is religion because they've convinced themselves that
Strong
wind
point.
turbines and solar panels are going to replace fossil fuels. The strange thing is there's 3 fossil fuels. There's coal, natural gas, and oil. Now, coal is primarily used to make electricity, coal-fired power plants. Natural gas, same thing, coal-fired power plants. It also makes fertilizers and pesticides.
Yeah.
But oil is never used to generate electricity. So wind and solar might be able to impact coal power plants and natural. But again, you're talking about intermittent electricity versus coal and natural gas that provide continuous electricity.
Dispatchable,
So
yeah.
again, you're comparing apples and oranges, and they're really not comparable. A hospital is not going to run on occasional electricity. If you're on the operating table and the lights go out, and the same thing with airports. They need communications. Computers don't like a power outage. Everything goes blank. And yeah, like I said,
The word is reliability.
reliability, continuous, uninterruptible
Continuous.
supplies, yes.
Right.
And that goes for electricity as well as a continuous supply of products.
Excellent. Was a great conversation again, as every time that we talk with Ronald Stein. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Armando. Have a great day.
You too. Have a great day.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.